Okay, so let's talk about fevers. I know sometimes people get the impression that a fever can be bad, right? You can get too hot, you can get too much temperature and it can cause harm. Well, let's talk about that. Here's the reality. Your body keeps track of how much germ load is happening, right? It only takes the tiniest amount. Literally, it takes 1/10,000,000th of a gram of germ waste, bacterial poo, right, for your body to detect and then drum up an immune response. 1/10,000,000th of a gram is like if I took one single grain of sand and then chopped that grain of sand up into 200 little pieces, and I took that one of those little pieces, and that little piece I spread out throughout the entire body. That's all it takes. And your immune system, your nervous system can detect that, and it starts your response. So let's say your body detects that and it starts your response, and you start feeling sick. You start to shiver, and your heart rate goes up and your metabolism cranks up, and so you start cranking up heat. Now, the whole shivering part is your brain tricking you into thinking you're cold when actually you're hot, but you think you're cold, so you bundle up. So your brain is basically manipulating your behavior, convincing you you're cold. So you're bundling up and you're holding the heat, and the heat's coming up and coming up. Now here's the thing. 1 degree of temperature, Fahrenheit, increase in your body temperature will increase your immune system by 10% strength. Every 1 degree of fever you go up, every 1 degree Fahrenheit, you'll get 10% stronger in your immune system. If you have a really blazing hot fever, 103, that's 5 degrees up from 98. You're 50% stronger in your immune system, okay? Now, the thing is, your body closely regulates your brain, your nervous system, the intelligence and wisdom inside you closely regulates what kind of temperature is happening. Your 98.6 degrees, that's normal. That's regulated. That's not like some random thing. That's a specific thing. When a reptile goes and lays out in the sun because their body doesn't control their body heat, when a reptile lays out, they lay out in the sun until they're about 98.6 degrees. And then when a reptile also is sick and a reptile needs to get a fever, the reptile stays in the sunshine longer to give themselves a 100, 102 degree fever to cook the germs. Let's talk about that. When our body cranks up the temperature, that's exactly what we're doing. On top of our own immune system getting stronger, we're cooking germs. So it's just like when you take a raw egg and you crack that egg into the pan. The egg white, it starts off clear. As soon as it touches the pan, it turns white, right? That's because you're cooking it. So what that is that's the protein changing. It's specifically you're denaturing protein. That's what cooking is. And so germs are made with protein. And so when you get hotter, you are literally cooking the germs. You're denaturing and altering the proteins that coat the germs. And so just like an egg gets stiffer, the proteins of the germs get stiffer and weaker, and while you're getting stronger and more able. Like that's what a fever is doing for you. So in addition to that though, sometimes it's the question comes up of like, well, how high is too high? How hot is too hot? Well, if we're talking about a regular naturally occurring fever, there is no too hot. Okay, now let me break that down. Naturally occurring. So let's say someone just has a surgery and there's a runaway infection after the surgery. That person can get a fever. Now, the fever isn't the problem, it's the runaway infection that's the problem. So yes, you'll need some help with that. You need the right kind of interventions for that. If you can also be stuck in a hot car in the summer or stuck in a coal mine and you can get too hot, you can get overheated. So environmental heat can be a problem. If you have runaway infections showing up, that could be a problem. If you have weird medication reactions, those could be problems. All those things could give you temperature that could be a problem. But if you're just living your life, your kids just living your life, and then you get sick, you get under the weather, and then a fever comes along, that one, the kind of one that happens to us all at some points, that one does not ever and has never gotten so hot it caused harm. The notion of a naturally occurring fever causing brain damage is actually an urban legend. There has never been a case of it. Now, what about when a seizure happens from a fever, a febrile seizure? So what that is when temperature goes up quickly, not like the overall height of the temperature, but a quick spike of temperature, that can cause a febrile seizure. Now, a febrile seizure is, if you're a parent watching your kid or a loved one, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. But even though it's scary, it's actually not bad. It doesn't cause harm. It's just scary. It's an independent, isolated event. A febrile seizure does not increase the chances of future seizures. A febrile seizure does not make other kinds of seizures more likely. It doesn't cause any harm to the body or the brain. A febrile seizure is just scary. It is not harmful. Don't be scared of it. I mean, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it's also not something to be concerned about. So the question of, well, how hot's too hot? When should you take something? If the fever is only beneficial, that's part of our answer. The other question is, when should you take something? Should you take something? Well, taking something isn't a free ride either. Taking something often has side effects, right? And so the thing here is, if there's risk with taking something and there's no risk from letting a fever go, there's only benefit from letting a fever go, the answer is you don't take something. You don't control fever. You let the fever do its job. You let the inborn intelligence of your body do its job, and you're actually better off for it. I know it's tricky sometimes when you're watching a loved one suffer. You want to do something. You want to help someone. But in this case, when it comes to fevers, letting a fever do its thing, that is the most important thing. You are already doing something. The inborn strength and intelligence inside your body is already doing something. You don't need to do something extra. You don't need to put someone in a cold bath. Just give them comfort, give them compassion. And then, you do your doctoring, your parenting, however you see fit, but let the fever do its thing. So my hope is this gives you maybe a more different insight about this. Now, the next thing too, when the brain and the nervous system and the immune system figures out we got these germs beat, we're good, that's when a fever breaks. Your body realizes, okay, we're good, and you get flushed and you sweat and you throw off the covers and you dissipate heat 10 times quicker than it took you to build it up. Again, it's all regulated. You have a wisdom inside you. So I encourage you, let fevers work. Now, one more little lesson in this. This one's sad, but they did this experiment one time with a bunch of sheep, and sadly, none of these sheep were going to come out of this experiment alive. They gave sheep, a whole bunch of them, lethal doses of infectious stuff, and they actually cut them open, implanted in infection stuff, and then sewed them back up again, and then watched what happened. And what happened was all the sheep got real sick. They all got fevers. But what you found is the sheep that had the highest fevers lived the longest. So in other words, fever was a survival mechanism, and the better you could do it, the better that you could survive. That brings me to this too. When you let fevers go, when you let them run their course, your lifetime risk of cancer and other diseases is actually reduced. You literally strengthen yourself to all kinds of other very scary things just by letting a fever do its job. So here's a vote towards your own internal strength, your own internal wisdom. I would have you lean into it and strengthen it when you can. So that's all for now. Thank you for listening.